why was this fine or tax or whatever you want to call Obamacare passed through the Supreme Court when it went to them? Because it was in there that they would be, that if you don't have insurance, you'd be fined. Well, they wouldn't let it go as a fine. They turned it into a tax by the rewording of it. So this new tax originated out of the Supreme Court. How did they get away with that? Why is this legal?
Well, I think there's two parts to the answer to your question. The first is that the Supreme Court interpreted the statute to say it's legal only if it's considered to be a tax. And they determined that Congress did intend for it to be a tax in the way the statute was written. And so because it was the interpretation of the statute, which did originate in Congress, that's why it's not considered to be something that the Supreme Court issued. Now, there actually was a case just this month, it decided in the D.C. Circuit in Washington, D.C., where the Affordable Care Act was challenged on the ground that the original bill came from the Senate, not from the House, and if it's a revenue-raising measure, as the caller said, it's something that it has to originate in the House. The D.C. Circuit rejected that argument on two grounds. One, that it actually did originate in the House. It's just that the Senate then substituted a bill, and sort of procedurally, that's just something that happens often. And second, that this law was not really only a revenue-raising measure. Congress really meant to restructure the healthcare system in the United States. If that's the primary purpose of the bill, then it's not considered a revenue bill and thus doesn't have to start in the House.
You know, David, the U.S. Supreme Court's really not passing laws. I mean, this is not to say that this was their preference or this was what they would have decided to do. They're simply looking at the laws to see if, in fact, they're constitutional. They may not agree, but the question is the law constitutional? And in this particular, the most recent Obamacare vote, it was actually two Republican justices, or two justices appointed by Republicans who also voted that it was, in fact, constitutional.
Yes, that most recent opinion was 6-3, which, we're so used to having 5-4 decisions in these very controversial areas that it was actually kind of a nice surprise to have it not be quite so on the line.
And the Chief Justice was the one who did the opinion.
Yes, yes.